Hello everyone. So today we are covering chapter 15, that is commodity taxation. So in this chapter, first we will look at the introduction, then we will look at the Deadweight laws and optimal taxation, and then the tax rule. So here we have two tax rule. One is inverse elasticity rule and one is Ramsey rule. So in the starting, if we wanted to look at what this chapter is about and like as an introduction, so commodity taxes. So what is commodity taxes? These are those taxes which is imposed on purchase of goods. Okay, so purchase of goods if you are going to a shop and you are buying anything, let's say a packet of a bread, right? So you are getting it for 20 rupees, but if a tax is applied on it, or then you will get it for 25. So commodity taxes are like those which are imposed on purchase of a good. And why we are looking at commodity taxes specifically? Because these are easy to observe and administer, and because of this they are easier to observe and administer. They provide a very convenient source of government revenue. Because if we look at the lump sum taxes, so lump sum tax was good from the perspective of efficiency and the equity. But government didn't have the perfect information. Government didn't have the information that how the about the ability of the individuals to pay, like how much they are earning and all. But commodity taxes are, because we are going buying goods, we are doing the expenditure, so it is visible. The government can observe or have a records of those things of purchase. So that's why it is more convenient source of a government revenue, and that is add up to its value, like why we are concerned so much about the commodity taxes. But there's a one drawback also. Drawback is that it commodity taxes distort consumer choices and lead to economic inefficiency. And why we are saying is distort consumer choices? Distort it means like it changes consumer behavior because of the change in the consumption pattern. So if say if you are a person earning 1,000 rupees, or you kind of major portion of your income goes on purchasing necessities, food or anything. So let's say you are having a food basket, okay, and that's you bought of 500 rupees that contains essential things which is required for you. But let's say if there is a tax on the food items, then maybe that food basket, that maybe consist of maybe rice or vegetables or maybe like wheat, right? So if the prices has increased, so now you might get that same food basket of 800 rupees or 900 rupees. So you see, so now what you will do, like let's say if the price of vegetables has increased, so what you will do, you try to purchase less of the vegetables, right? You try to move to other sources, more packaged food or something like that, which is a cheaper alternative to that. And especially if you are belongs to a lower income group. So that is a thing, like it changes the consumer behavior, consumers pattern. That's why we call it distortionary. And because of that it leads to economic inefficiency. And if we look in the market, then commodity tax creates a wedge between the price paid by consumer and the price received by the producer. So wage is nothing, it's a gap, basically gap between what price the consumer is paying for the product and what the price a producer is receiving for a product. Similarly, we can understand it through this example. Like here we have a demand curve, downward sloping, this is a supply curve, and let's say our equilibrium price was p naught and the quantity we were consuming is q naught. But because of the price, what happens, like of this is any good one, and there's a tax on this commodity. So what happens is that we will consume less of this good, right? So we will move towards the q1 level of the level of consumption. So at this level, this pr is the price received by the producer, and correspondingly pp, like this is the price that is paid by the consumer. So there is a gap between what the price consumer has paid and what the price producer has received. So this gap is basically the tax that we paying at this level of a commodity for this good, and this tax is basically nothing but the wage which we are seeing here. So right, and because like quantity has decreased, it will create a deadweight loss. This is a deadweight loss, this triangle. And why this is a deadweight loss? Because we can see like this is the tax and this is the final quantity that a person is purchasing. So quantity, this q1 multiplied by this tax would give the revenue, and the left or the this would be the remaining consumer surplus, right, which is not gained by either producer or the consumer. So this is the loss in the social welfare or the loss in the efficiency, which we are calling deadweight loss. And so we are calling this deadweight loss or welfare loss as a cost of implementable taxation. So we are saying this is the cost that we have to pay for imposing this kind of a commodity taxes. So now we look at the effect of commodity taxes. We have two sides. One side we have a consumer, and on another side we have producer. So how the consumer is getting affected by the commodity taxes? So if we say like we have a tax, so what that tax will do, it will increase the price of that good, and therefore there would be two effects that would be working in behind, right? One is substitution effect होगा, एक होगा हमारा income effect, right? And for producer also tax अगर imposed होता है, so what will happen to the producer? मतलब उसको कॉस्ट इंक्रीज हो जाएगा, बिकॉज पर यूनिट उसकी महंगी होगी, लाइक राइट, महंगी बनेगी बिकॉज ऑफ द टैक्सेस. सो कॉस्ट विल इंक्रीज, इट मीन्स मार्जिनल कॉस्ट विल इंक्रीज, एंड देयरफॉर like producer will supply less of the output. Now here comes the key policy question, that is how we design the taxes given कि हमारा एक फिक्स्ड रेवेन्यू भी जनरेट हो जाए गवर्नमेंट के लिए, और हमारा जो एफिशिएंसी लॉस है वो भी मिनिमाइज हो जाए. सो वी आर नॉट लुकिंग फॉर काइंड ऑफ अ टैक्स स्ट्रक्चर और टैक्स जो कि हमारा एक रेवेन्यू सोर्स भी अच्छे से प्रोवाइड कर सके एंड ऑल्सो मिनिमाइजेज द एफिशिएंसी लॉस. This is the questions we are looking for. Before that we would understand like more about the deadweight loss, that how we are calculating what is deadweight loss. So if we go back like lump sum taxation what do, like lump sum taxation में क्या था कि regardless of the price, और क्या था, एक इनकम का एक अमाउंट जो था basically that being levied as a tax from the people. तो let's say हमारी अगर 1000 इनकम थी, तो अगर हमारा लमसम टैक्स था, राइट, कुछ फिक्स्ड अमाउंट होता है लमसम टैक्स का, लेट्स से हमें 100 रुपीज़ पे करने हैं. सो हमारा लमसम टैक्स चला गया, नाउ वी हैव लेफ्ट विद 900 रुपीज़. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे क्या था, लाइक स्टिल वी हैव द चॉइसेस. तो हमारी जो कंजप्शन चॉइसेस हैं दे आर नॉट डिस्टॉर्टेड, बिकॉज हमारा प्राइस में कोई चेंज नहीं आया गुड्स का. गुड्स प्राइस आर ऑफ द सेम कॉस्ट, बट हमारी जो इनकम थी, डिस्पोजेबल इनकम थी, दैट हैज़ रिड्यूस्ड, but price of the goods hasn't changed. And because price of the goods hasn't changed, it means consumption patterns of the consumer behavior also wouldn't change, and therefore these are called non-distortionary. But if we look at the commodity taxes, they change price of the good. So as tax increases, price of the good increases. So again, like there will be two effects that would be working, like substitution effect and the income effect. So substitution effect would be would say कि if our good is normal good, we are considering it is a normal good, then in this case substitution effect would be like कि price has increased, so the good has become more expensive, so let's consume less of this good, so it would reduce the consumption demand. And for the income effect, they would be like income has also reduced, the real income, so we have left with low income, so consume less of it. And both these effects are working in the same direction, so we can say कि जो demand होगी, final consumption demand has fallen. This is how the commodity tax affect the consumption. So you can see that consumption plan has changed now. So earlier, let's say the consumer was consuming some 10 units of the good. Now because the price has increased, so he has reduced his consumption to just 5 units. Okay, so his consumption plan has changed, therefore it is distortionary. But why we are still consuming, like if this is just not it, if it is distortionary and creating so much problem, then why still we care about consumer about the commodity taxes? Because it is increasing tax revenue, and consumer welfare to reduce रहा है, but it is increasing tax revenue, so we cannot, like, we need to consider it क्योंकि एक अच्छा source of income है revenue generation का, like it's a good source of a revenue for revenue generation for the government, इसलिए हम इसको इतना like ध्यान से, like we are considering it so much. So deadweight loss is what? It is the extent to which the reduction in welfare exceed revenue raised. So we will see at this definition through this figure. On the x-axis we have a quantity, that is we can say consumption demand, and here this is the price on y-axis, and this downward line is demand curve basically. So we are saying, let's say our initial price was some p, and at this price we were consuming some x naught amount of good. Okay, here. So what was the consumer surplus in this case when price was p? What is consumer surplus? Consumer surplus is nothing, it's an area above price line and below demand curve, right? So below demand curve, above price line, this is the area. Triangle ABC is representing consumer surplus in this case, like this area. And at Q is a price, like let's say if a tax is applied and tax is T naught, so the now the price has become Q, here Q, and at this Q price we are demanding X1. So because of the increase in price, our consumption demand has fallen for this good to this extent. Okay, so now the new consumption consumer surplus would be this triangle AEF, which is we are representing like from these slanting lines. So this is consumer surplus left. So this is the reduction. So fallen consumer surplus is like the we will subtract this area AEF from ABC, that would give us this. It's a trapezium kind of, like CDBEF, and out of it if we would see, like it is divided into two parts. One is this rectangle, which is equal to the revenue. Why revenue? Because this gap is the tax multiplied by the consumption. These are the x1 is the units that is consumed, and t is the tax on those units. So tx1 is giving the revenue that is raised by the government, and this triangle has left. It means this is that consumer surplus that has been lost. This not even has been taken by the government or not anybody else, so it's kind of a loss in the welfare, which we are calling deadweight loss. So this triangle, like we can calculate this triangle using the triangle formula, like 1/2 base into height. So here the base is this change in the consumption, change in x, and the height is this equal to t, taxes. So this is the deadweight loss formula. 1/2 base is change in x, and this is the height, and change in x is like x naught minus x1. But the problem here is that because x is unknown, we don't know the consumption before and after the tax, so we need some alternative formula. So for alternative formula, we know that this is elasticity demand. This is the elasticity of demand, and elasticity of demand is what? Change in x with change in p multiply p upon x. This is kind of a formula for the elasticity of demand. And so from here we can get this change in x by like doing some basic transformation here in this equation. So we are taking this dx out, so this x and dp will go up and p will go to the denominator. So this is the equation that we get after it. And so if we just need to substitute this change in x here, and after substituting we are getting this, and basically we have put in the absolute sign here, like just to represent, like just to avoid the confusion with the negative sign of the elasticity. So this is the elasticity, like absolute sign we have put in, and the change in price is nothing but the tax. Change in price is what? Q minus P. Q minus P what? Like Q was P plus T minus P. So change in price is equal to T only. So we have put in T here. So this is the final equation or the formula that we get of deadweight loss, that is 1 upon 2 multiply to the elasticity of demand, multiply by x naught, that is the initial consumption, upon the price into tax square. This is the deadweight loss. Just learn this. So from this formula, what we have derived, that deadweight loss is directly proportional to the tax square. So what it means is that as the tax rate increases, deadweight loss also increases significantly. There's a direct relation. And so one is this, how this is affect like depending on the t square, and another relation we have to look at it, how deadweight loss is related to elasticity. There is also a positive relation directly related to it. So for a given tax change, the deadweight loss will be larger the more elastic is demand for the commodity. So larger the elasticity of the commodity, like demand elasticity for the commodity, more will be the deadweight loss. That's it. Now we wanted to look at this deadweight loss thing from another point of view, from another perspective. Here we will take the income effect or substitution effect को भी. So here what we have done, we have taken two tax schedules, like one is a lump sum tax and one is the commodity tax on good one. So on x-axis we have a good one, on y-axis we have good two, and we are assuming कि the level of revenue will be raised जो होगा by both the taxes would be same. So level of revenue raised by both taxes is same. This is the thing. So now we will see what will happen. So we are saying कि ये हमारी initial budget constraint थी, right? And this is the utility U naught. तो जो initial position थी in the absence of taxation is A here. Now if you are considering there is a lump sum tax, so lump sum tax में क्या होता है? We are paying a certain amount of the income. तो income reduce हो रही है. There is no change in the price. So slope में the gradient of the budget line would not change. So the only effect on the budget constraint would be कि हमारा shift होगा, like the parallel inward shift in the budget constraint due to lump sum tax. And we are moving from A to B here. Okay, here where the utility is intersecting or is tangent to the new budget constraint. If we are considering there's a lump sum tax. So in this case, what has happened? Utility has fallen from U0 to U1, right? And now we're considering a case of commodity taxes. So in commodity tax, what happens? कि हमारा price changes. So when price changes, it doesn't lead, like if for good one, like the good one पे हमने टैक्स इम्पोज किया, so what will happen? इसका जो relative price है of good one relative to good two will increase. तो our budget constraint will become more steeper. तो जो red line है, it is for the commodity tax line है, budget line after commodity tax के बाद, ठीक है. And our here the point or the where the consumer is C, ठीक है, on red this U2 difference curve पे. So the shift from A to C is due to what? Change in the price, right? And here also we can see that utility has fallen from U0 to U2, and the fall in U2 is more than the fall in U1. It means like U1 is above U2, so U1 is more than utility of this, like 1 is greater than U2, and we are saying कि जो change है, the difference in U1 and U2 is the deadweight loss, and we have measured the deadweight loss in terms of utility here. So we are saying कि जो difference है ना utilities में, lump sum tax में and commodity taxes के उसमें equilibrium पे, that is a deadweight loss. और उसको हम measure कैसे कर रहे हैं? In terms of utility. लेकिन utility भी थोड़ा like we want some monetary measures के monetary value में हम कितना बोल सकते हैं कि deadweight loss है. So उसके लिए what we will do, we will consider कि Let's say commodity is producing the same utility levels as a lump sum tax, so tax would move the consumers to D. So what we are saying कि हमारा जो यूटिलिटी है लेट्स से इट्स इज रिमेनिंग सेम. यूटिलिटी रिमेनिंग सेम मतलब कि आफ्टर टैक्स के बाद यूटिलिटी वुड बी U2 ओनली, और हमारा जो लमसम टैक्स है वो थोड़ा बढ़ जाएगा. लाइक इस अमाउंट से हम और शिफ्ट होगा हमारा लमसम टैक्स जो बजट कंस्ट्रेंट होगी, सच दैट कि वो टेंजेंशियल होके जाए, मतलब इस इंडिफरेंस कर्व से. एंड दिस इज गिविंग सम पॉइंट डी हियर. तो अगर हम यूटिलिटी को चेंज नहीं करते हैं, यूटिलिटी वी आर कीपिंग यूटिलिटी सेम, तो ये जो शिफ्ट हमने करा है ना अभी लमसम टैक्स में बजट कंस्ट्रेंट में, दैट शिफ्ट जो होगा दैट it would be in monetary terms, and this shift is giving us the Deadweight loss. So to cover for this lump sum tax would increase, and जो difference होगा दो lump sum taxes के बीच में, it is the monetary measure of W of Deadweight loss. That's it. So effect क्या हुआ commodity tax का? Substitution effect होगा हमारा D to C, and income effect हुआ A to D. Like जो हमारा A to D हुआ, इट इज़ ड्यू टू इनकम इफेक्ट, इनकम में चेंज होने की वजह से, बिकॉज ऑफ दी लमसम टैक्स की वजह से हुआ है. एंड दिस शिफ्ट फ्रॉम डी टू सी हेयर. ओके, लेट मी मेक इट लाइक दिस. तो जो हमारा ए से डी में चेंज हुआ है, दिस इज़ बिकॉज ऑफ द इनकम इफेक्ट. एंड डी से सी में जो चेंज आया है, दिस इज़ ड्यू टू सब्स्टिट्यूशन इफेक्ट. टोटल प्राइस इफेक्ट हमारा ये यहाँ पे हो जाएगा प्राइस इफेक्ट. फॉलन मतलब लाइक डिमांड गुड वन की डिक्रीज हो गई है. दैट्स इट. ओके, नाउ हमने लास्ट में भी देखा था इन द लास्ट चैप्टर कि सब्स्टिट्यूशन इफेक्ट इज़ काइंड ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबल डेडवेट लॉस. अगर सब्स्टिट्यूशन इफेक्ट ज़्यादा है तो डेडवेट लॉस भी हमारा ज़्यादा है. वी वर लाइक टॉकिंग अबाउट इट, बट नाउ वी वांटेड टू शो why this is happening, why we are saying कि substitution effect is responsible for deadweight loss, not the income effect. So here we are considering a case जहाँ पे हमारा like on axis we have good 1, good 2, and we are saying कि these both goods are perfect complements. Perfect complements means there is no substitution effect, or there is no substitution between these two goods, and hence the no substitution effect in the demand for this. And in such cases when we have a perfect complement, the ICs are L-shaped like this. So let's say initially we were here A at the intersection of this IC U0 with the budget constraint, and this line that which is budget constraint is due to the change in price, right? And this is shift parallel is because of the lump sum tax we are saying, or the income effect. So we are saying कि दोनों का जो रिजल्ट आ रहा है इट्स सिमिलर. लाइक B इज़ द पॉइंट वी आर गेटिंग आफ्टर द टैक्सेस, बोथ द टैक्सेस. तो कोई लाइक देयर इज नो मच डिफरेंस. दे बोथ रिजल्ट इन एग्जैक्टली द सेम आउटकम. सो डेडवेट लॉस ऑफ कमोडिटी टैक्स का जो है हमारा 0 है, राइट? सो डेडवेट लॉस caused by substitution between commodities, hence it is proved. Now we will move toward the next topic, that is optimal taxation. So optimal taxation का क्या पर्पस है, क्या like why we do this? एक तो हमें हाई लेवल ऑफ वेलफेयर मिलता है ऑप्टिमल टैक्सेशन पे. लाइक इफ वी हैव अ टैक्स विच इज़ ऑप्टिमल, इट मीन्स ये हमें हाईएस्ट लेवल ऑफ वेलफेयर देगा, दैट इज़ पॉसिबल. और ऑल्सो इट विल रेज द रेवेन्यू रिक्वायर्ड बाई द गवर्नमेंट. ये दो पर्पज होंगे दैट विल बी फुलफिल्ड बाई द ऑप्टिमल टैक्स. Now we are saying like we are using commodity tax. So commodity tax क्या करेगा? It lowers the level of welfare compared to lump sum tax. We all know this, right? But despite this fact, why we prefer commodity taxes on lump sum tax? Answer is because of the observability of the transactions makes commodity tax more feasible, which is not possible with the lump sum taxes. This is also something which we have already discussed. So now consider we are kind of building up a model like thing. So we are considering two good economy here, Robinson economy. We have a one consumer, one farm, and the farm is basically is producing output and selling the output, where the consumer is supplying the labor. So labor is the good here, and this graph is showing the revenue and the production possibilities in this economy. It's a tricky figure. मतलब this reading में like this reading is very like tricky. I would suggest. So I won't think if they go much deeper into this depth, or they will ask you very tricky questions from at least from this section from the book for your examinations. So don't need to like go into much depth of it. Just understand, like कि mota mota like what this trying to say. So good one we have here on the x-axis, good two here on the y-axis. Good one हमारी labor है that the people providing, and on the good two we have a consumption. एंड पी हमारा प्राइस वेक्टर है बेसिकली, एंड वी आर टेकिंग कि जो हमारा वेज है इज टेकिंग एज अ न्यूमरेटर, लाइक इट्स वेज इज इक्वल टू 1 and this is the price, right? So this is kind of suggesting the revenue possibilities, prices, sorry. And this basically this y is a production set for the economy. तो यहाँ पे इन्होंने ना मिरर इमेज बनाई है, लाइक दे हैव नॉट गिवन द प्रॉपर काइंड ऑफ इमेज, सो इट वुड बिकम वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू मेक यू अंडरस्टैंड और फॉर यू टू अंडरस्टैंड. सो जस्ट कीप इन माइंड व्हाट आई एम सेइंग कि वाई इज अ प्रोडक्शन सेट फॉर द इकोनॉमी, दिस लाइन, एंड दिस गैप from here is showing the revenue we, or we can say the that governments take out of the economy are units of the labor for its own purpose. So after the revenue requirements has been met, the economy has constant return to scale in turning labor into output. So the commodity taxes have to be chosen to attain this level of revenue. So like that's it, like P is kind of an equilibrium price for the firm. So we are like, you just need to keep in mind two things. This is the revenue that is required by the government or government is taking, and this is the production possibility frontier. It means like this gives the production possibility frontier. क्या देता था कि maximum by utilizing all the resources in economy, how much, what are the bundles or the goods that can be created. If you remember, like it used to be something like this production possibility curves. We used to have different goods x and y. The production possibility curve था कि if we utilize all the resources, then we would be able to produce this much amount of like the goods or the combinations of x and y. ठीक है, उसी की तरह like, but we have taken it like this here. Now next figure talks about the consumer choice. So इसमें like this is the production, हमारा प्रोडक्शन फ्रंटियर है. प्रोडक्शन फ्रंटियर बताएगा कि जो मैक्सिमम पॉसिबल प्रोड्यूस हो सकता है वो हमारा इतना है, एंड दिस इज़ द प्राइस वेक्टर, एंड लेट से हमारा प्राइस इंक्रीज हो गया है टू क्यू. सो इनका जो डिफरेंस है इट इज़ गिविंग टैक्स. ठीक है, न्यूमरेट वेज इज़ 1 ओनली, एंड हियर वी हैव ऑफर कर्व. दिस इज इंडिफरेंस कर्व. इंडिफरेंस कर्व इज बेसिकली शोइंग कि यहाँ पे टच कर रहा है कि मैक्सिमम जो विलिंगनेस है और प्रेफरेंस और या फिर यूटिलिटी दैट अ कंज्यूमर इज ड्राइविंग फ्रॉम दिस पर्टिकुलर बंडल और कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ दीज टू गुड्स आर दिस, राइट? But to choose a point or to get to a optimal kind of a choice, our offer curves would also pass or like pass through this point. So the optimal point would be such where our offer curve is intersecting this possibility frontiers at a place where indifference curve also is tangential or intersecting. So this is giving the optimal point. एंड ऑफर कर्व हमारा जो बेसिकली वेरी मच सिमिलर. सो जो हमारा या दैट्स इट, एक ऑफर कर्व हमारा बेसिकली फिजिबल जो आउट लाइक फिजिबल कंजप्शन को बताता है कि हाउ मच वी कैन कंज्यूम. लाइक अगर इससे ज़्यादा इफ वी गो अबव इट, इट इज़ नॉट फिजिबल फॉर अस टू कंज्यूम. Now the next figure is optimal commodity taxation. So the similar जो हमने भी पढ़ा था, the thing only is that यहाँ पे हमारा ये था like proportional kind of it. यहाँ पे अगर हम taxations को हम यहाँ से ले रहे हैं like this is the revenue generated by the government, तो हमारा production frontier यहाँ से shift हो गया to this side, and this was the initial optimal point that we are getting E, right, at within indifference curve I naught or the utility I naught, and the price is P, right, and commodity that we are consuming is X naught. at the optimal point. And yeah, that's it. This is the optimal point is given. And about this star or this, I will talk about it later. So we to find the optimal tax rate on the consumption good. This is the figure. If we need to know how we find the optimal tax rate. So the points on the offer curves are consistent with consumption choice. So वही हमने बताया कि like जो भी offer curve है उस पर जितने भी points हैं, they are showing the consistency like with the consumer choices के साथ, like feasibility को बता रहे हैं basically. So maximum level of utility achievable on the offer curve is at the point where it intersect production frontier. तो इसमें ये बता रहे हैं जो ऑफर कर्व है हमारा ये, सो दिस ऑफर कर्व, सो जो मैक्सिमम लेवल ऑफ यूटिलिटी है जो हम अचीव कर सकते हैं ऑफर कर्व पर, वो वहीं पर होगी जहाँ पर हमारा इंडिफरेंस कर्व इंटरसेक्ट कर रहा है हमारी प्रोडक्शन जहाँ पे ये इंटरसेक्ट कर रहा है विद प्रोडक्शन फ्रंटियर पे, राइट. सो ऑप्टिमा हमारा ई पॉइंट है, कंज्यूमर इज ऑन आई सी आई नॉट, and tax is this, which is the difference of these, and this ensures the consumption choice point is e रही हमारा, and revenue would be tax multiply with the consumed goods, जो भी है हमारी quantities है, that gives the revenue. So optimal commodity tax is determined at the highest point of the offer curve in the production set. This you need to remember exactly that जो ऑप्टिमल कमोडिटी टैक्स होगा वो हमारा डिटरमाइन कहाँ पर होता है, एट द हाईएस्ट पॉइंट ऑफ द ऑफर कर्व इन द प्रोडक्शन सेट. सो हमारा ये प्रोडक्शन सेट है लेट्स से, राइट. तो हमारा जो ऑफर कर्व होगा लाइक जो ऑप्टिमल कमोडिटी टैक्स होगा वो डिटरमाइन होगा हाईएस्ट पॉइंट ऑफ द ऑफर कर्व इन द प्रोडक्शन सेट. सो हमारा लाइक ऑफर कर्व यूँ है, ठीक है. तो हाईएस्ट पॉइंट क्या है ऑफर कर्व का प्रोडक्शन पे, this, if like this is the thing, this is the if this is the offer curve, like this is the offer curve, then this is the point. तो जो highest point होगा ना offer curve पे in the production set, that is basically is the optimal commodity tax. Now we will look into the next and the very last topic, that is tax rules. So tax rule is basically like if we look at it, so we need to go into asking asking a question that how the tax burden is allocated across different commodities. तो अभी तक हमने पढ़ा था कि ऑप्टिमल टैक्सेस को हम कैसे फाइंड आउट करें, हाउ ऑप्टिमल टैक्सेस को कैसे डिज़ाइन करना है, सेट करना है, राइट. बेसिक्स प्रिंसिपल्स क्या हैं इनके, राइट. what are their basic principles for the optimal taxation and all. अब हम फाइंड आउट करना चाहते हैं, लाइक वी मूव टू द पॉइंट जहाँ पे वी आर कंसर्न अबाउट कि एलोकेशन कैसे होगा इसका अक्रॉस डिफरेंट कमोडिटीज़. सो लेट्स से वी हैव अ, वहाँ पे अभी क्या था हमारे पास, लाइक एक और दो कमोडिटीज़ थी, बट नाउ लेट्स से वी हैव मल्टीपल गुड्स, मल्टीपल कमोडिटीज़. तो उसमें हम टैक्स बर्डन को कैसे लोकेट करेंगे. बेसिकली जो हमारा है गिवन, लाइक इसमें लाइक इन योर सिलेबस वी डोंट नीड टू गो इनटू द डेरिवेशंस ऑफ दीज रूल्स, जस्ट कीप इन माइंड व्हाट इज़ द फॉर्मूला एंड मोर इम्पॉर्टेंटली कि उसके एप्लीकेशंस क्या हैं इन द एंड. सो द फॉर्मूला गिवन इन योर टैक्स इज दिस, which looks very unusual, kind of like very not so good. So basically if you can learn it, or if you cannot remember it, so you can just say कि जो हमारा tax है it is kind of have a inverse relation with elasticity. That's it, ठीक है. This is the rule. So इन्वर्स इलास्टिसिटी रूल इज सेइंग कि प्रपोर्शनल रेट ऑफ टैक्स जो है हमारा गुड शुड बी इन्वर्सली रिलेटेड टू द प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड, एंड फर्दरमोर द कांस्टेंट ऑफ प्रोपोर्शनलिटी सेम फॉर ऑल गुड्स, ठीक है. एंड इसके जो इम्प्लीकेशंस हैं मेन इन्वर्स इलास्टिसिटी रूल के, एंड येस And one like assumption that we are taking here is okay, there is no cross price effect. नो क्रॉस प्राइस इफेक्ट का मतलब है लाइक वी आर नॉट कंसिडरिंग क्रॉस प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी को, कैसे गुड्स आर प्राइस ऑफ अ वन गुड इज अफेक्टिंग द अदर गुड. वी आर जस्ट कंसर्निंग विद द लाइक वन गुड ओनली. लाइक if we have many goods, then we are assuming that all goods are different, like they are not related to each other. We are considering the goods independent, their demand independent to each other. So goods demand is independent here. Okay, and this is a very strong assumption, so just keep in mind. Okay, and the implications of it are, so like let's say we have one very inelastic, so we have very inelastic demand, and inelastic demand is basically of necessities, where the demand like responsive is very low. We can say there is very small responsiveness of demand to prices, necessities, and that includes maybe your food, clothing, etc. So in this case, if inelastic demand hai hamari, it means like ed is less or less than 1. And in this case, what this our inverse elasticity rule is suggesting by definition, that these goods should be highly taxed. And second, for elastic goods or elastic demand, which is usually of luxury goods or items, for them like elasticity of demand is usually very high. Like it's very responsive, the demand is very responsive to prices in those cases. So here this rule is suggesting that there should be less taxation. So this is the thing it is saying. So but what the problem we are facing in this? First, it is good for efficiency, but this rule is not equitable. And क्यों equitable नहीं है? Because we can see that it is placing relatively higher taxes on necessities, which will result necessities पर कौन डिपेंड रहता है? बेसिकली लोअर इनकम इंडिविजुअल्स, जो लोग पुअर हैं, फॉर देम व्हाट इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट, लग्जरी और नेसेसिटी गुड्स? ऑब्वियसली नेसेसिटी गुड्स. सो उस केस में क्या होगा? दे वुड बी इम्पोज्ड विद हायर टैक्सेड. सो हायर टैक्सेशन जब उन पे लगेगा, सो दिस वुड रिजल्ट इन लोअर इनकम फॉर देम, because they need to bear relatively more of the commodity tax burden than the high income individual, so it will lower their income. So that's why we are saying that it is not equitable. It is efficient but not equitable. So now next rule that we have, second, is Ramsey rule. So again, like the derivation of this Ramsey rule is not in your text, not in your syllabus. So you just need to keep the formula or the implications of it. And the most important difference that we are taking so far, कि जो हमारी inverse elasticity rule था, we will considering कि there is no cross price effect, right? कोई cross price effect नहीं है. Like we are considering neither substitution nor complement of the goods basically. So but now we in this Ramsey rule we are ruled out this possibility, and here we are saying that there can be a cross price effect हो सकता है हमारा, right? So it gives us a more general kind of a rule, taxation rule. And it is also one of the oldest results in the theory of optimal taxation, and it provides basically a description of the optimal taxes for an economy with a single consumer with no equity considerations. यहाँ पे भी हम इक्विटी को वी आर नॉट कंसर्न अबाउट द इक्विटी, सो अगेन ये उसका लाइक ड्रॉबैक होगा, बाद में जाके हम देखेंगे. So if we look at the what is the final the formula that we get here. This is the final formula. So what this is interpreting, where basically SKI is nothing, it's a substitution, it is showing substitution effect, right? So again, like, you don't need to go much into the depth, just keep in mind the implications of this rule. First, you can also look for the interpretations that what this Ramsey rule is interpreting. So it is saying कि optimal tax system should be such that the compensated demand for each good is reduced in the same proportion related to the before tax proposition. So Ramsey rule क्या बोल रहा है कि compensated demand for each good is reduced in the same proportion relative to before tax position. So now if we like understand this in much more simple words, so Ramsey rule is basically a principle which is designed for designing taxes that first of all like minimize the deadweight loss while raising a given amount of revenue. Okay, so the core idea is that the tax goods. So what is the core idea? What it is saying? It is saying that we need to tax goods so that जो consumption है, so that consumption of all goods fall by same proportion. Like obviously after adjusting for substitution effect. So what it is saying कि जो हमें गुड्स को ऐसे टैक्स करना है कि जैसे जो कंजप्शन है सारे गुड्स का वो सेम प्रपोर्शन में फॉल करे. ठीक है, सो हम यहाँ पे क्या देख रहे हैं? What is trying to say? It is trying to say that tax system should create equal proportional distortion in quantities, not prices. तो यहाँ पे हम कंसर्न वी आर मोर कंसर्न अबाउट द क्वांटिटीज़. हम देख रहे हैं जो क्वांटिटीज़ में जो फॉल होगा कंजप्शन क्वांटिटीज़ में ऑफ ऑल गुड्स शुड बी बाई सेम प्रपोर्शन इफ टैक्स इज अप्लाइड. ठीक है, सो वी आर लाइक कंसर्न अबाउट कि इक्वल प्रपोर्शनल डिस्टॉर्शन होना चाहिए इन क्वांटिटीज़ में. वी आर नॉट केयरिंग अबाउट द प्राइसेस. एंड वाई इज इट सो? वाई क्वांटिटीज़ नॉट प्राइसेस? So to answer this question, we need to understand that equality, the utility, it depends on how much people consume. It depends on how much people consume, right? not directly on prices. सो प्राइस मैटर्स बट इट ओनली अफेक्ट द डिमांड. इतना ही मैटर करता है, लाइक डायरेक्टली उसका यूटिलिटी पे लाइक इफेक्ट नहीं होता. इट इज़ इफेक्टिंग बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स इफेक्ट ऑन द डिमांड. वो डिमांड को अफेक्ट करता है, इसलिए हम यूटिलिटी को वो थोड़ा चेंज करता है. अदरवाइज यूटिलिटी इज़ डिफाइंड ऑन हाउ मच पीपल इज़ कंज्यूमिंग, राइट. उसके कंजप्शन से वी आर गेटिंग द सेटिस्फैक्शन और द यूटिलिटी. एंड देयरफॉर जो हमारा गोल होगा, goal is to minimize changes in consumption patterns. बिकॉज हमने क्या पढ़ा था कि डिस्टॉर्शन होना के मतलब क्या है, कि कंज्यूमर बिहेवियर में चेंज आना, कंज्यूमर पैटर्न्स को चेंज करना. सो हमारा जो टैक्स सिस्टम है वो हमारा जो गोल होना चाहिए वो ऐसा होना चाहिए कि जो कंजप्शन पैटर्न है उसमें मिनिमम चेंज आए, जो बिहेवियर है कंज्यूमर्स का वो चेंज कम से कम हो. वी आर नॉट कंसर्न अबाउट कि इक्वलाइज प्राइस होना चाहिए, इक्वलाइज प्राइस इंक्रीज. ओके, सो दिस इज द थिंग. सो हमारा इम्प्लीकेशंस ये हो सकते हैं कि गुड्स जो लेस रिस्पॉन्सिव डिमांड है उनकी, और वी कैन से इनइलास्टिक डिमांड है, नेसेसिटीज़, दे वुड बी टैक्स्ड मोर हैवीली टू अचीव द सेम प्रपोर्शन रिडक्शन इन डिमांड. सो वी कैन से कि जो नेसेसिटीज़ हैं which are more elastic, they should be taxed more. So in this cases they would have higher optimal taxes. And for luxuries, those have more like elastic demand, they would be taxed less, and therefore they would have a lower optimal taxes. सो अगेन जो मेन प्रॉब्लम रहेगी इसकी वो इक्विटी इशू ही आएगा हमारा. तो सो द मेन प्रॉब्लम इज ऑफ इक्विटी, बिकॉज दीज थिंग्स आर इंश्योरिंग लाइक हमारा लाइक एफिशिएंसी इज़ गुड, बट इक्विटी हमारा इशू में है. बिकॉज लुक, नेसेसिटीज़ क्या है, नेसेसिटीज़ आर बेसिकली कंज्यूम्ड बाई whom? It consumed by low income household. So if they are imposed with high taxes, their disposable income would be less, so they will be worse off, right? So if their income has less or like already suffering more, so this kind of a taxes would be regressive in nature, not progressive. प्रोग्रेसिव क्या होता था कि हमारा रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूट होता था इनकम, जहाँ पे हाई इनकम इंडिविजुअल्स वुड पेइंग हायर टैक्सेस, और उसको फिर हम पुअर इनकम जो पुअर लोग थे और इनकी लो इनकम इंडिविजुअल्स थे उनको हम पास ऑन कर रहे थे इनकम को. सो वी वर कॉलिंग दैट प्रोग्रेसिव. बट यहाँ पे क्या है, वी आर टेकिंग मोर इनकम और वी आर टेकिंग अ लार्जर पार्ट ऑफ इनकम एज अ टैक्सेस फ्रॉम द लो इनकम इंडिविजुअल पीपल. सो दैट्स व्हाई वी आर कॉलिंग इट रिग्रेसिव. And this happens because models assume only one representative consumer and ignores the equity. So that is the main concern here of the equity. So that's about this chapter. So thank you very much for watching this video, and if you like this video, please do like comment how you find this video and subscribe the channel.